It's 3 a.m. You're staring at the ceiling and your brain won't shut up. Car breaks down tomorrow. You're screwed. Laptop dies. You're surely screwed. Lose your job. Really screwed. What if I told you there's one specific number that makes almost all of that go away? Most people think real financial milestones start at $100,000 or $1 million. But here's what nobody tells you. The first real game changer is $10,000. And there's actual psychology and math behind why that number hits differently, but that will be shown later. Today we're breaking down exactly why hitting $10,000 changes your life in ways you probably never saw coming. Let's start with that, life without a cushion. You know that feeling at the grocery store, mentally doing math to figure out if you can afford the name brand cereal or if you're stuck with the cardboard stuff? Or when your friends want to grab dinner and you have to invent some excuse because $25 for a meal would wreck your whole week? That's the reality for millions of Americans right now. Every financial decision is a calculation. Every unexpected expense feels like a potential disaster. You're playing nothing but defense, and you never get to think about actually building something. But what's it that actually changes at $10,000? Here's the thing most people don't realize. When you hit $10,000 for the first time, the big change isn't what you buy, it's how you think. Your relationship with risk shifts. When you have zero savings, every decision feels dangerous. New job, new city, investing in yourself, all of it feels like a gamble you can't afford to lose. But with $10,000 in your account, those same decisions suddenly feel manageable. You're not going to quit your job and become a professional beach volleyball player. But you might finally ask for that promotion you've been sitting on for months. Later, we will see how you can benefit even more from this. Your body literally changes. Neuroscientists have found that financial security reduces cortisol, your body's primary stress hormone. So hitting $10,000 doesn't just change your bank balance, it changes how your body responds to everyday stress. Here's the clearest example, the check engine light. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, that little orange light might as well be a countdown to financial ruin. You're already spiraling. Credit card debt, borrowing from family, skipping other bills. But with $10,000 saved, it's annoying. That's it. You're annoyed, not panicked. That shift, from panic to mild annoyance, sounds small. It's not. When you're not constantly drowning in money stress, you sleep better, work better, and show up better for the people around you. Financial stress bleeds into everything. Remove it, and you free up mental energy to actually move forward. And now on to the myth of the emergency fund. Here's something most financial advice gets wrong about emergency funds. They're not really about emergencies. They're about the peace of mind of knowing you could handle one. Most people who build up $10,000 don't actually spend it on emergencies. They use it as a launchpad. They invest in courses. They start side hustles. They move to cities with better opportunities. Or they finally have the mental bandwidth to focus on growing their income. Because they're not just trying to survive until Friday. And then there's the confidence factor. When you have money in the bank, you carry yourself differently. You negotiate better. You're willing to walk away from bad deals because you're not desperate. That confidence shows up in job interviews, in salary negotiations, in how you handle basically every high-stakes conversation. Better outcomes follow, not because of luck, but because you stopped operating from fear. It's not about discipline either, it's much more about identity. If $10,000 feels completely out of reach right now, here's the real reason most people never get there, and it's not income. Most people treat saving like a crash diet. Cut everything, save aggressively for 3 months, burn out, go back to spending the same way. Rinse and repeat. It never works. The people who actually reach $10,000 don't think of saving as a temporary sacrifice. They start seeing themselves as someone who saves money. That identity shift changes everything. When you see yourself as a saver, you notice opportunities to cut expenses you never saw before. You get creative about extra income. You start thinking long-term instead of just chasing immediate gratification. And here's the good news. It gets easier. Saving your first $1,000 is brutal. Real lifestyle changes, constant willpower. Your second 1,000 is noticeably easier. By the time you're working toward your fifth or sixth, it's almost automatic. Would you like to know what $10,000 actually covers? So let's be honest, most car repairs cost between $500 and $3,000. With $10,000 in savings, that's not the end of the world, it's just another Tuesday. A visit to the emergency room, emergency treatment, a minor procedure, all covered. Losing your job, probably the most frightening financial scenario for most people, suddenly gives you 3 to 6 months of breathing room to think carefully about your next move instead of accepting the first offer out of desperation. But here's where it gets really interesting. $10,000, that magic margin, doesn't just protect you from disasters, it also creates opportunities that didn't exist before. A certification program that costs $2,000 up front but increases your annual salary by $10,000? Without savings? Impossible. With your financial foundation? A given. A friend who is starting a business and looking for a small investor? Without savings, you can only wish him luck. With $10,000, you actually have options. I'm not saying you should put all your emergency money into your buddy's crypto project, but having options is very different from not having any. This freedom will finish that horrible decision fatigue, or also known as the silent loss of energy. Decision fatigue sounds like a buzzword from the corporate world, but it's not. It's real and quietly ruins the lives of many people. Every day you make hundreds of small financial decisions. No-name product or brand name item. Bring a packed lunch or buy one. Regular gas or premium. Every single decision costs mental energy. And when every single decision depends on whether you can actually afford something, you're completely exhausted by lunchtime. With $10,000 in your account, 90% of these daily money calculations are eliminated. You don't choose the cheaper pasta because you're afraid to check your account balance. You choose what you actually want. I know someone who told me that he almost cried when he went shopping for the first time after reaching the $10,000 mark. Not because he bought anything crazy, but because for the first time he could shop according to his preferences and not just to survive. This kind of freedom is hard to describe until you've experienced it yourself. That shows us the counterintuitive truth between money and risk. Here's something that sounds contradictory but is 100% true. If you have no savings, every dollar is precious to you, and that actually makes you less willing to invest in your own future. Someone without savings will skip a $50 networking event because $50 is a lot of money when you're short on cash. Someone with $10,000 will go to the same event, meet someone, and get a job that pays $5,000 more a year. Having a safety net doesn't make you reckless. It makes you brave enough to take the right risks. This is also evident in career development. People who build their first real savings account often experience an unexpected upswing in their professional lives. Not because money magically leads to promotions, but because financial security gives them the confidence to take risks that people without financial security simply cannot afford. But how can you actually achieve your goal? Let's be honest, you don't have to save $10,000 all at once. If you try to achieve this too quickly, it usually backfires. The most successful savers I know started with embarrassingly small amounts, $25 a month, sometimes even less. In the beginning, the amount you contribute doesn't matter. What's important is consistency. Here's a number worth thinking about. The average American spends over $3,000 a year on coffee, eating out, and impulse purchases. If you redirect a third of that into your savings, you'll have $10,000 in some years. I'm not telling you to give up your morning coffee. I'm just telling you that most people have more leeway in their budget than they think. The difference between someone who builds savings and someone who doesn't is usually not about income. It's about awareness and intention. So here's the bottom line. $10,000 isn't just a number. It's proof. Proof that you can hold on to money, think long term, and get out of pure survival mode. And once you've proven that to yourself once, you start thinking about the next $10,000 differently, and the one after that. Not because you got lucky, but because you built the most important financial skill there is, not just earning money, but keeping it. The transformation that starts at $10,000. This so-called magic margin isn't about the dollars. It's about who you become while saving them. If your bank account right now looks more like a 1950s phone number, start small, stay consistent, And remember, the person you become on the way to $10,000 is worth more than the money itself.